So, how would y'all like to see a video where in 12 minutes on ESPN on national TV today, they stood here and addressed China and the Hong Kong situation and suppression of free speech, then stood here and had a conversation about racial propaganda going back to the 1960s, SJW virtue signaling, and the JQ. Does that sound like something y'all will be interested in listening to a little bit and have me break down? I feel like it's a good one to break down because I got like 2 videos I have to do today. And like legit, this happens to be one of them. There was no choice. When I heard this shit, I was like, no, there's no. Yo, literally, it was a rush this nigga off the air moment on ESPN today, and it was fucking beautiful. All right, let's get to it.
We are not apologizing for Daryl exercising his freedom of expression. I regret, again, having communicated directly with many friends in China that so many people are upset, including millions and millions of our fans. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, we come with basketball as an opportunity to sell dreams, sell hopes, that to you know, increasingly focus on physical fitness.
Okay, this is Adam Silver. He is head of the NBA. One of his executives decided to stand here and tweet out support for the Hong Kong protesters who are protesting against mainland China. Now, the NBA has been working on getting contracts and building things in China because there's 1.4 billion of them, right? So they want to, you know, have a piece of that market. You know what I mean? And, you know, they had Chinese players like Yao Ming, right, who stood there and played in the NBA. Now, when this executive, right, from this team stood here and tweeted this out, I believe he played, it was executive for the Houston Rockets. He stood here and pissed off China so much that the Chinese government started canceling contracts and canceling events with the NBA. Just to let you know where we are.
Mental health, and to the extent that we are causing disruption in people's lives and that we are causing disharmony, that's something I regret. And so I think, as I said earlier, I don't think it's inconsistent to both be apologetic that that was the outcome of that speech, but at the same time support Daryl's right, you know, to his freedom of expression.
Maury on Friday posted a tweet with an image that read, "Fight for freedom, stand with Hong Kong." He later deleted the post and tweeted an apology. Now, China also has canceled 2 G League exhibition games between affiliates of the Rockets and Dallas Mavericks later this month in China. The NBA and the Nets were scheduled to dedicate a new Learn and Play Center at a primary school in Shanghai Tuesday afternoon as part of the league's NBA Cares program, but the event was canceled by the Chinese Education Bureau, and Chinese smartphone maker Vivo said Tuesday it will suspend all cooperation with the NBA. There is a lot to unpack here. Stephen A., first let's start with your reactions to Adam Silver's comments.
I would like to start with Max, if you don't mind. I know I was supposed to come to me first, but I would like to hear what Max has to say about this, Max, if you don't mind.
Well, sure.
Now, I know a lot of y'all are little kids, all right? And I'm saying, I'm not talking about like age-wise mentally though, all right? Because you're very naive about things. When you start dealing with figures at 7, 8, 9, 10 figures in dollars, all that bullshit about freedom of speech and nonsense goes out the door, all right? When you're handed millions of dollars a year to represent a company, let me be honest here, all right? You lose your ability to have freedom of speech sometimes. You're going to lose some of your fucking, I'm not going to call them rights, because you still have your rights when it comes to like the government, right? Like you can still speak out to your government. You know, you can write a letter to Congress, whatever the case might be, right? You know what I mean? On your behalf or whatever the case, whatever it is, you know what I mean? And But the reality is that you're now a representative of this organization, okay? That has billions of dollars at stake at any given time, right? And to be so naive to think that your freedom of speech as an individual matters more than those billions of dollars is childish and naive at best. All right, like, stop being children. You know what I mean? Stop standing here whining about his freedom of speech. This isn't a free speech issue. This is a money issue. Okay? That's what this is. This is a, guess what? Our fan base is getting older. We need to find a new market. These people want our product. We'd like to be able to sell it to them. They don't have freedom of speech or any of the values that we have. They just enjoy our product. It's kind of like, you know, when you go to India, McDonald's is in India. They don't sell beef. You know what I'm saying? You know, they have McRibs and stuff over in Afghanistan and Iraq. They don't sell pork. You know what I mean? Like, yo, this is how this operates. Like, real shit. You know, you stand here and you adapt yourself to make money. That's really what it is. Like, say, for instance, if you're fixing air conditioners or kitchen stuff, whatever, you're doing drywall. You go into a Chinese person's house, you're going to take your fucking shoes off. Why? Because you want to make money. It's that simple. This is about money. This isn't about freedom. You need to stop your whining right now and quit being babies. You know what I'm saying?
The U.S.-China relationship, starting when Nixon opened up China, Stephen A., has always been based on mutual interests, not mutual values. And from time to time, this rears its head, that we do not share mutual values. Values, you know, the best American ideals, values are democracy and freedom, especially of expression, by the way, freedom of speech. And, you know, it came Tiananmen Square, and at different moments, this rears its head, and it's reared its head again. Daryl Morey tweeted something uncontroversial, saying people want freedom, essentially. You know, repressive communist governments are bad, essentially, right? That's not controversial. Is that controversial in America now? Well, but it may be controversial in China. I suppose we don't really know because the Chinese government doesn't allow for freedom of expression. So we just have to take their word for it that so many people are offended. And who knows if they're even getting the whole story over there. Joseph Tsai, the owner of the Nets, went on a long thing about how complicated this issue of Hong Kong is, and we don't need to get into it here. But is he a reliable narrator? He has enormous business interests in China. And you operate at the pleasure of the Chinese government. So that's not a reliable narrator, even if he's a brilliant guy, you know, well-educated, you know, amazing entrepreneurial career, and I'm sure much more versed in the issue than, say, I am. And yet I can't take his word for it because he has enormous business interests. And China exerts enormous pressure. South Park has an episode about how much they censor, China can censor speech really around the world through business pressure. The irony is the communist government can do that through business pressure. And so people's reactions.
Now, look, I'm not a traitor or pro-China, all right, in any way, shape, or form. But, you know, I do want to point out the hypocrisy of what's being said here. Because let me be honest here about America. Now, Top Gear came to America back in 2005, something like that. And when they came to America in 2005, they went through the South, you know, they made fun of rednecks, whatever, right? They ended up having almost all of the BBC, which is the British Broadcasting Company, all of their visas, right, almost ended up getting pulled because the three of them were there on a documentary visa, all right, and they ended up making Top Gear, which, you know, it's a show about cars, right? You can call it documentary, you can call it comedy, but it's entertainment, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Whatever it is that what they were doing doesn't really fucking matter, all right? our government, because of what they said and what they did, right? Because they put a cow on the roof of a car, and I mean, they painted, vote for Hillary on the sides of it. This is back in 2005, right? They stood here and ended up trying to have these individuals basically banned from our country over speech. Legit. They stood here and exerted pressure on a foreign broadcasting agency, not over news that they were telling, all right? Not over some populist thing. No, over a comedy show making fun of some people in the South. That's it. So, don't get anything misunderstood. Like, we do a lot of fucked up shit too, all right? Legit. We do a lot of fucked up shit.
Initially, the knee-jerk response, especially in the media that's afraid to say anything about the bad Daryl Morey. That's essentially the thrust of it. Bad Daryl Morey. Daryl Morey didn't do anything wrong. He just tweeted the sentiment was good. People should be free, essentially what he says. If you have a problem with that, that's your problem. I don't mean you personally, Stephen A. I mean whoever has a problem with that sentiment, that people should be free. Okay, so you have a problem with it. I don't.
Okay. I appreciate your perspective. I don't mind taking on my shoulders. I got a problem with it because it wasn't smart, plain and simple. I respect the hell out of Daryl Morey. Daryl Morey is a good man. Daryl Morey is an elite executive. I hope he keeps his job and continues to flourish as executive for the Houston Rockets. But that does not mean that he's infallible, that he's devoid of a mistake. And this was one of them, no matter what way you slice it. And the reason why I point to it being a mistake, Max Kellerman, is because of what you started off by saying, mutual interest. With respect to Senator Ted Cruz and others on Capitol Hill who came out and spoke glowingly in support of Daryl Morey. Ask them how many times they've had to bite their tongue in the interest of the United States of America, in the interest of whatever dealings were in our best interest, as we were dealing with a communist China or somebody else. I'm quite sure that there are many occasions where they have to muzzle themselves and not speak up and speak out and speak open about every single thing, because it's not just their own personal interest that they're talking about here. They have to think about a greater good. So now we transition here to Daryl Morey. We have a Houston Rockets organization that has been ingratiating itself with China for over 20 years. They're the #1 franchise in China. Why? Because Yao Ming used to play for them. Who's the president of the Chinese Basketball Association? It's Yao Ming, who basically has been over here in America, and though he's loyal and patriotic and loves his nation, in the same breath, he greatly appreciates the benefits of being in the United States of America and wanted to sort of matriculate that into Chinese culture, per se, in the eyes of some people. Who's to say what he was doing behind the scenes? Who's to say what the Houston Rockets were doing behind the scenes? The NBA does business and has been doing business with China for many, many years. The individual athletes have been doing business with them, which is why James Harden was one of the first people to come out there and apologize. Because when you talk about the money that James Harden, to LeBron James, to Kobe and others have made, think about the money that they make in China. I mean, you look at Stephon Marbury, he's a star over there. Ask Tracy McGrady about what it's like to do business in China. And those are just individuals. So when we understand the kind of business relationships that have been cultivated and the kind of impact as American citizens we can have on another culture, we do have a responsibility to sit up there and be careful about the things that they say. Nobody is saying that what Daryl Morey said he was wrong. Nobody in this country had better dare say that he was wrong about what he said. That is not the issue. Tillman Fertitta doesn't have an issue with Daryl Morey specifically because of what he said. Adam Silver doesn't have that issue. The NBA doesn't have that issue. What they have an issue with is that, why did you say it? Why did you feel the need to do it? Particularly when we're about to go there and perform and play. You've got a situation where now millions of dollars have been lost, jobs have been lost, and all of this stuff because a basketball executive wanted to send out a tweet that ain't even 140 damn characters. At some point in time, When you're sitting up, remember, Daryl Morey doesn't work for himself. He's sitting up there and he expressed himself as an individual, but he's a representative of the Houston Rockets. He gets a check from Tillman Fertitta. Oh, by the way, his check is ballooned because of his association with the National Basketball Association. Nobody knows this better than Daryl Morey. So to me, in closing, this is what I'm trying to say. I am so sick and tired of folks acting like you get to do what you want to do, say what you want to say, no matter how righteous you may be, regardless of the ramifications, while you got your hand out for somebody else's money.
But hold on.
While you got your fucking hand out for somebody else's money. Talk all that good shit when you standing here begging for somebody else's fucking money. You shut your mouth. Yo, yeah, get him.
Presenting them. There's a level of sensitivity. There's a level of sensitivity that we're obligated, and Max, working as employees of ESPN, it is nothing short of hypocritical for us to take a different position, because guess what? Bob Iger, Jimmy Pitaro, Con Shell, and everybody that runs this organization, we work for Walt Disney. We work for ESPN. We don't get to just say and do what we want to do.
And it begins. I feel like Stephen A. got some shit to get off of his chest.
We can't do that.
Hold on a second. The logical conclusion of where you're going, if you go to its like absurd conclusion, I don't mean that your point is absurd. I mean, if you take it all the way to its logical conclusion, what that means is the powers that be you must kowtow to the powers that be. You must acquiesce constantly. What you're saying is, like, for example, editorial policy anywhere, here or anywhere else. We can make the decision that we can live with it and work within those rules. Or we may feel, no, I have to make a principled stand at a certain point.
Right.
And then...
Yeah, you can make a principled stand, but the reality is that you know if you make the wrong stand, or if you want to feel that strongly about something, you might have to walk the fuck out. You might have to say what you want to say on live TV, grab your stuff, and leave. If that's really where you are. Because the reality is you don't sign your own paycheck. Somebody else does. They have editorial control over what you do. Period. That's the reality of working for someone else.
Deal with the consequences. And history actually smiles on the principled. That's what happened, you know.
What? Hey, look.
Throughout, let me. When Teddy Roosevelt invited Booker T. Washington to the White House, there were editorials all throughout the South, and people.
I do believe that this black man here is tired of this Jewish guy virtue signaling at him. I do believe Stephen A. is gonna pick today to be the day where he keeps it fucking real.
People were, wanted another civil war practically, and this is, you have to consider it's not just you, it's this entire nation. Did you do the right thing or not?
Max, yeah, I appreciate your historical perspective. Now let me give you a little bit of history as a black person. Remember Rosa Parks refusing to give up her seat on the bus? Excuse me, did you know that she was chosen? There were people who sat on the bus before her. She was chosen. You know why? Because she was the perfect candidate to bring attention to the issues during civil rights that obviously vexed us as a community.
Oh, well, fuck it. Let's get the propaganda out in the motherfucking open. You know what I'm saying? The media chose Rosa Parks. She wasn't the only one doing it. Yo, history's a bitch, ain't it? Like, yo.
Thought about the march from Selma to Montgomery. Excuse me, that was planned, that was orchestrated, that was coordinated to produce a desired effect. That wasn't somebody speaking willy-nilly, emotionally, with a sentence or whatever. I'm saying to you, when you say something like that, it's not about kowtowing to executives or anything like that. It's about addressing the greater good. You're not addressing the greater good because you decide to throw out a 100-word or a 50-word tweet, and then, oh, by the way, deleted it when the heat came up and tried to clarify it thereafter. Listen, you got to take all of these things into perspective.
He said, when I come through, clear it out, play the sidelines, understand how a real nigga air it out. Yo, Stephen A. is going hard in the motherfucking paint today. He ain't playing no games and taking no prisoners. He said, look here, man, all that virtue signaling bullshit you're doing to me right now, son, I'm gonna throw all that garbage back in your face right now. Do not stand here and tell me all this Jewish fucking nonsense to me, all right? I know what your people did to mine. Take that shit fucking walking.
These are facts.
He may have not thought it all the way through, or maybe he didn't realize the extent of the backlash.
Does he not have an obligation to think it all the way through? That's my point.
You're still standing up for the behavior of a repressive communist government that will exert
I am doing no such thing.
Economic,
I am doing no such thing.
Economic pressure to silence people.
No, that's not true. That's a misrepresentation. You should be ashamed of yourself for saying that.
Wait a minute.
That's a misrepresentation of my position.
I understand Joseph Tsai, the owner of the Nets, who's, again, he's lived it, so understands the issue better than others, but not a reliable narrator because he has enormous business interests there. I understand Adam Silver says he's aware he doesn't want to offend, our friends in China and the fans in China. I get it. But do we really know what the level of outrage is since there isn't freedom of speech? We don't even know.
Hold on, Molly, before we close. I would remind you that throughout this world, one of the things that exists is the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. I don't see folks outside of the Jewish community talking about that too often.
Okay,
Why?
guys,
Because
let's
guess
do this.
what? When
Let's
you
come back
open
to
your
this.
mouth, you have to be careful.
Okay, let's take a commercial break. Sometimes, obviously, your moral compass trumps business interests. As we saw, it can cost you your job. Look at the Colin Kaepernick. Let's get a commercial break in. We will get into Zion, and maybe we'll discuss.
Yo, this dude went the whole way. He said, I don't see nobody addressing yo people about yo bullshit. Yo. Ooh. Yo, goddamn, man. Like, yo, this is why I love Stephen A. A lot of people hate this motherfucker. They really do. But I love Stephen A, dude, because every once in a while, this motherfucker will give you something. Real shit, and he just gave you one today, my friends. Yo, you know the situation. Man, like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. Peace.